Hey, welcome back to the Mobility Project. Today we're working on ungluing the borders of their scapula, kind of looking up top with the traps, which will upwardly rotate that shoulder, keep it stable, and it attaches right into your neck. Underneath that trap is a little piece of muscle called the levator scapula. It's one of the things that kind of rotates the scapula up, works with a force couple with your trap and with your serratus to pull that and rotate that scapula up. Underneath that, though, you've got all this little soft tissue, serratus, posterior, superior, I'm talking about, you kids. But all of the musculature here gets baked. The rhomboids, all of this tissue gets smoked and cooked. So here's what we're going to do today. I just spent a day doing a ton of gymnastics with Carl Powley from gymnasticswod.com. Smoked me. I'm feeling just baked, and like my neck is really tight from doing all this crazy pulling and stabilizing. So I'm going to try to get myself turned around. The first thing I'm going to do is restore the motion of the joints. I'm feeling stiff. Normally, if we see joint stiffness, we can attack the stiffness first of the joint. Then we see a kind of commensurate changes in soft tissue. Originally kind of popularized by thinkers like Brian Mulligan, who is a New Zealand PT, who basically said that, man, if you could restore that motion in the joint, things that look like adaptive shortening really weren't adaptive shortening. And so that's why we typically tend to bias on joint mobility first, and then we catch soft tissue second. So that's what I'm going to do first. So the very first thing we're going to do is make sure I can just spend a few minutes on the single rib, ball to that single rib. I'm going to start high, and the real deal though is I'm going to capture that little bit of movement just at the end, but I'm really interested in the pulling today across. If I want to go internal across the body and external at the top, this fully externally rotated position would be the kind of full consummated position, back and forth, until I really don't have any soft tissue pulling. Oh, right in that corner is ugly. I can make little circles over my head, but I just want to see if I can unglue those tissues. At the same time, I'm catching that whole system, catch that first rib, all of that business. So I'm going to spend about 2 minutes, 3 minutes in this high area here, each side for starters, and see if that just doesn't make a difference. And immediately, I have much better range of motion cervically to the left than I do to the right. It just feels better. So, second piece, now that I've kind of spent some time doing that, is I'm going to unglue this bad boy, and I'm going to wind up, for starters. I'm going to go ahead and let that pull across my body, externally rotate, and then I'm just going to imagine pulling my scapula off the body. So shoulder blade stays stable, externally rotated, that winds up the shoulder into the joint, winds up the relationship of the humerus to the scapula, and then I'm going to turn underneath the scapula and then take a big breath here. Get tight, I can contract and relax. Just let that scapula pull. And basically, some people think there's a big scapulothoracic bursa here. Whatever. We just mainly need to think about the scapula as being a joint that floats around the thoracic spine and one that gets tight and has associated soft tissue stiffness. So just kind of wind that thing up, let that shoulder come across and kind of get pulled off. I'm externally rotating because that means that I won't be just kind of dislocating the shoulder, creating a sulcus sign here. So just wind that thing up tight and then just pull away. Get tight, relax, try to take a big breath in there. And you can just hang out in this region. This will make a big, big difference in terms of how far you can pull that hand back. It's ridiculous what happens when you start to create some motion in that scapula. Then, for the coup de grace, we're going to wind up, put this thing a little bit low. And this is how we're finally going to count coup on this bad boy. I don't know, can you count coup on your scapula? Wind up. Oh, that's too low with the green band. Sorry about that. Pull yourself into this position. This is basically pulling myself back. I know I'm loading up here, but what I'm really after is that it's going to pull that scapula back. Now I've created a length in that trap and in that levator. I can turn my head to the side and camp out here. Just nice and easy. I don't need a cork on my head. I just need to load a little bit and hang out. Take some big breaths and mobilize with breath here. Get tight if I want with this arm. That's fine. Release. Let it pull back. I can get kind of a 2-for-1. But the fact that I'm able to load that neck into this position means that I'm able to kind of create more distance between the scapula, which is getting pulled down, and the neck, which is pulled out. And suddenly, within just a few minutes, I feel like I can do some pushing and some pulling tomorrow. It's about getting the ship turned around. We'll see you guys tomorrow.